Hello, everybody, and welcome back for a separate episode of the Day of the Grief. Let's Talk About It podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. Just before we get started, if this is your first time tuning in, if you have not already, do me a favor, head over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And we're dropping episodes every day for you guys, and sometimes one and two, three and four. You just never know. So stay tuned in for us, right? Now, before I bring on my next guest, and as you guys have seen her on the show before, she's coming in from Hawaii, so we are all over the world as usual, bringing you amazing conversations. She has been on here, amazing individual, and we got a really good topic that we're gonna be talking about today. Now, before I bring her up here, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. Now, without further ado, help me welcome my next guest, Lani. How you doing, my friend?
I'm great, Tony. It's great to be back with you.
Yes, it's great to have you. It's great to have you. So now, before we get started, we got a lot of people who may not know who you are. Tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
All right. So Lani Almannza, born and raised in Hawaii on the island of Oahu. And the work that I focus on is wellness, self-care and aging in wellness. For a number of reasons, my goal is to age in wellness and not in illness. And part of that comes out of my grief journey. So we can talk about that a little bit. And I have my own wellness business, Alaka'i Associates, and a book that I wrote about my journey, which includes part of that grief process, called Under a Full Moon and a Guiding Star.
I love it. I love it. And again, like I already said before, thank you for the work that you do. You do some amazing stuff out there, and we'll dive deeper into that, right? Today, what topic are we diving into? I know we talked about it before, so let the audience know what we're going to be talking about today.
Well, I think you and I just briefly touched on the fact that today is a unique day in our history. And for some people, they might be feeling a little bit of grief. And grief comes in all shapes and sizes. It's not a one size fits all. I say it comes in all shoe sizes.
Yeah.
So it might look a little bit different for everybody, and it might trigger, those thoughts and feelings might trigger other grief emotions as well.
Yes. I know for a lot of people, the election day, there was families that were separated, destroyed because of other people's political beliefs, and for me, I don't think I would ever understand that. Another person's political beliefs don't have nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
We can feel however we want to feel about it, but these are family members that are being destroyed. And today, marks two special occasions: the inauguration and MLK.
Yeah. And I really, when I was looking at my social media this morning, scanning it, I really felt good about the fact that most people are focusing on the good and the inspiration and motivation of MLK rather than the other side of the coin.
Right. And that is a positive thing. But let's talk about some of the grief that people may be experiencing right now, right?
Yeah.
The sense of loss of freedoms, the sense of the world in chaos. So many different avenues that we can go down. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, so it really dawned on me that this was a grief process several days after the election, when I had people reaching out to me and asking if they could have a conversation because they were just at a loss, either trying to understand other family members who had voted differently, or just the loss of sense of freedoms that they might have had. But I had three people that it really impacted profoundly. And I'm talking them through that initial first week. The following week, I went for my monthly massage. I go for a Hawaiian lomi massage, and my practitioner is amazing. And at some point during that time, I felt this huge weight lifted off of me. And I told her, I said, I just realized I have been carrying around other people's grief this past week,
Mm-hmm.
and thanked her for lifting that off of me. But I said, I didn't even realize it was grief until that moment, that that sense of loss that we feel when we lose a loved one was the same depth of loss that they were feeling. And it was really eye-opening for me, to look at grief through that lens.
Yeah, yeah. I've watched people, and for for the most part, I try not to get into political discussions with people, and try to respect everybody's choices, because these are your choices nonetheless, right? And try to just be there for those who are struggling, um, to help share the burden that they're feeling, and not to be judgmental, but to let people know that I see them, I hear you, and what you're feeling is validated. And I've seen
Mhm.
both sides of the coin. Well, all three sides of it, right? The triangle. You know, those
Yeah.
those that are on this side, that are those that are on this side, those that were in between, that was like, I didn't want to have anything to do with this type thing. And I'm like, hey, do what you need to do, right? In order to, because we got 4 years of this. And no matter how we want to look at it,
Yeah.
we still got 4 years, right? If not more.
Yeah.
And I'm right there
Yeah. And
with
that was the thing that, yeah.
you. No, go
What
ahead.
struck me was that this the same processes and the same steps and the same
Hmm.
experiences that we feel in, you and I have experienced that loss of a child, that depth that people are feeling that in a different way. And so the
Right.
same steps and processes, um, can move us through the next 4 years. And I think it's
Yeah.
the same, we talk about grief just doesn't come and go. You learn to grow around it and beyond it. And so like you said, we have 4 years of getting through this particular grief episode in our lives,
Hmm.
if that's where we're at, to um, to incorporate those lessons, to build on the strengths and the lessons that we've learned from our.
Uh-oh.
And we're
Uh,
we're freezing up here, so I'm not sure where we're at.
no, no, you're good. You was talking about the lessons that we've learned and everything. So that's where you froze up at.
Yeah, so I think the lessons that I learned. First of all, your grief journey is your own.
Hmm.
It's unique to you, so um, you need to be mindful of that, and that everybody else's journey is going to be unique to them.
Hmm.
And so it's important to make sure you're taking care of yourself, making sure that you are surrounding yourself, nurturing relationships with friends and family that keep you grounded,
Hmm.
um, and take it one day at a time. There was if you don't mind, I'd like to read something that I found in the archives of my writing.
Yes, yes, of course, of course.
Sort of reflects where some people might feel or might be. Um, so I don't even remember if I put it. Oh, I did. It's called Treading Water. In a hole, treading water, waiting for a swell to push you up or propel you out. You try to find something in the walls to hold on to just rest for a while. Or maybe there's a place where you can get a foothold and start to climb. But then a wave comes over the top and knocks you back down, treading water again. most times the light is only partial because there's only a short time where the light is directly overhead, and in the shadows it is cold. But when the light is overhead, you can feel the warmth on your shoulders, waiting for someone to come throw you a rope to help you climb out. It's not that you aren't trying on your own, but sometimes it's just so hard to get started when you know the tides. So take a breath. One day at a time, life goes on.
Love that. I love that, because there's a lot to take in just in that right there, and it's reminding people, like, no matter what, there's always a silver lining, right? The wave, and it explains the waves of grief perfectly, right? Because that's what it's like. It's like the swells are coming in to take you out, right? And you can feel as if you're floating in the middle of the ocean with no land in sight. And sometimes you can feel like you've been washed up on shore with everything taken out of you, every breath, and you're just striving just to get to some dry land, So there's the multitude of emotions that come along with that. And I want to focus a little bit more on today, right? Because the day is on top of the inauguration, it is actually MLK Day. And so that itself has this, there's some positives that can go along with that, a lot of positives, and then there's some grief that goes along with that as well. And so let's dive into that a little bit. Let's talk about that a little bit. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because as inspirational and motivational as Martin Luther King was and still is, I think for me, the grief is that we're still trying to get there. That, the grief in that we thought we had conquered the mountain. And here's another climb, that we haven't gotten as far as we thought we were, or we hoped we would be. And so a little bit of grief in that, as humanity, and particularly in this country, we haven't healed as much as we need to.
That right there, you hit the nail on the head, because I think just within the last few years, most of us have just now started this journey of healing. And I was just talking to somebody about that earlier, when I was telling her, I was like, I'm here for a purpose. We talked about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and all the greats who have come before us, who have paved the way for us, right? And I just told her, I said, the purpose that you and I and so many others like ourselves are here is not to take the place of MLK or Dr. Martin Luther King, or Malcolm X and Rosa Parks and all of these greats that have come to pave the way for us to have the freedoms that we do today. But our job is to reach those individuals that they can't reach, those who are in need of healing. And she posed the question to me, why is that? I said, because of the simple fact of, this is how we rebuild our communities. This is how we rebuild our world. You got the rich out there. That's who they need to reach. But then you have the broken. You have the damaged.
Yeah.
You have the lost. And those are the people that we want to reach, right?
Yeah.
We want to be out there with those individuals who are homeless and struggling with addiction and struggling within their mental health and struggling with the traumas, from past traumas, and maybe some of them recent traumas. Those are the ones that we want to reach, because those are the communities right now that can help make a difference moving forward. And
there's a lot of healing to be done.
Yeah. And we're taking the first steps. Now, in your own thoughts and things like that, when it comes down to having a bigger impact in healing, what should be some of the approaches that we take moving forward to reach those communities, to be able to open up the doors for
There's so much out there that we have resources and tools available to us, and I think a lot of times people they see something and they try to throw it on like a big band-aid, but it's really important to assess the individuals or communities to what's appropriate for them, what's culturally appropriate. Not every remedy is going to work for everyone. It's like we said in the grief process,
you.
everyone's process is unique. And so their healing modality. But I think one where we can start is the core within ourselves. And I just finished reading a great book, The Heart Speaks, which is a cardiologist that talks about really coming to understand that the heart is much more than an organ, flesh and blood and pumping, that it really is the source of our energy, and that trauma in our life, so grief and loss and trauma, really impact our might not be aware of. And so to really, I think most people in most cultures can, the heart is the core of their being, and to really start focusing on our heart health, and not just whether we have high cholesterol or low cholesterol, the spiritual center. Until we get down to that part of us as individuals, we just keep layering stuff on top of the layering, eating or drinking, or, and maybe not to the point of addiction, but to the point where it's not good for our physical health, but also not good for our heart health,
Right.
that deep spiritual heart health. So I think in a lot of ways, one of the things that I want to pursue in this year is really focusing on how can I reach people's hearts, because that will transcend any community, culture.
I definitely agree with that. And I think that's the reason why, when we go out here into the world, especially those that are doing the grief work and, helping guide individuals along those paths of not only understanding, but healing. I like to say, I love the fact that we are heart centered, because that is the core value of wanting to connect with other people, to be there for them, to understand the strength that it takes to walk through somebody through the mud and everything. And if we look at the state of the world now, there's so many things going on, right? There's the talk of the aliens showing up. There's there's like conflicts all over the place. The racial divide, all of these hate groups on both sides are starting to pop up all over the place. And so many other things that are going on in the world, that I believe that it is important to be heart centered, to go out there with the people and be like, hey, we don't have to be this way. We can do so much more, and
Yeah.
I was telling,
Yeah,
I
I
was
just
listening to
think
someone
one
else.
of the talking.
No, no, I was going to say, I was mentioning to someone else the importance of us being on the front lines, and doing the work that we do, because I almost feel like we're the chosen ones to do it, right? We were chosen to stand on the front lines for just these moments like we're going through right now, right? It's like everything else we've been getting practice.
Yeah,
It's been
yeah,
preparing
that
us for
was
this moment.
yeah, and that was the kind of the revelation that I got when those people called me. Is like, I never thought that would be part of my what I had to offer and what I could help people through, and that it connected to grief. And so it's just really important to, like you said, be the front lines, be there to help people, be heart-centered, to know where they stand, is okay. And that it's okay to be vulnerable. Like we don't hold much back in these conversations. And it's okay to be vulnerable. It's important to be vulnerable, to let people hear and see your story, because every voice matters. Your story, your voice matters. And so if we can connect people heart to heart to tell their story, then we can start healing.
Yeah. And you know, the key to it is, though, you know, you said it, not holding back in the conversations, to let people know about the downright dirtiness that you've had to go through. People want to know the messy parts, right? Because there's somebody out there right now that's listening in the mess of it all. And they're swimming in all kinds of sorrow and depression, anxiety, being overwhelmed just by the day-to-day talks and walks, being afraid to be open up because they don't think that other people are going through it. Because when we talk about grief, we also talk about the individuality, right? It is yours. It's personal, right?
Yeah.
And in turn, they take that as a literal aspect, and they forget that there's other people out there. It's your experience, but there's other people out there that are going through it. So I do believe that it's important to have those deep embedded conversations. To go wrong, speak your truth. Tell people what you had to go through, and then, you know, because the people that I have on are so inspiring and so big and so amazing. But tell people how you got to where you are, right? I believe, or not believe, I know this. Our lives are romance novels. It's full of everything, right? You have you have the beginning, you have the middle, you have the ups and downs, you have the heartbreaks, you have the loss, and things like that. And these chapters continue. So I often make it a point to let people know: make sure you write yourself a happy ending, right? Make sure you write yourself a happy ending. Go out there and write that book. Do that podcast. Do that. Go on stage and talk to people. Because right now, in the state of the world, I don't know if you can feel it, but I know I can feel it. There's a heaviness in the world right now. There's a heaviness of worry. What's going to happen to our immigrants, immigrated families that are over here? What are going to happen to, you know, to our day-to-day lives? Is it going to get any better? Is prices of living ever going to go down? Is there any way out of it?
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, it's like my reading said, is that you just feel like you've got a foothold and here comes another wave. And so it's hard to feel that you're ever going to get out of that hole. But that's why you, like you said, that's why you and I are here, to share those stories, to tell people, here's the rope. We're throwing you the rope. You know, it might not be an easy pull out of the hole, but we're going to hold on to the rope. We got you. We'll keep pulling. You keep climbing. Take a breath one day at a time, one step at a time, but don't let go. Don't let go of the rope.
Right.
It, you know, it could be 4 years. The climb could be 4 years, but we still got you. You know, that we've been through that. We've been in that hole. We made our way out, and we're here to throw that rope down to the next person.
You know, ever since, for the longest time, I'm not gonna say ever since, but when I discovered that phrase, I got you, I realized how powerful it was. And I realized that when I said it to people, like, no, you don't understand, I got you. Right? The look on their face when they're like, huh? It's like, I got you.
Yeah. That, and for me,
Uh-oh. Was that again? You froze up on me.
I said it's also important, besides I got you, for people to hear you are not alone.
Mm, yeah. Now, my next question would be, how important is it now for people to feel seen and heard and validated in what they're experiencing in the world?
I think it's really important because there is so much visibility that we've now become invisible. So,
Mm,
social media, um, all that visibility, there's a lot of people out there doing the same thing. And so now we've actually become invisible with all of that.
okay, okay.
Their connection with like-minded people and sort of stay in that flow, um, because there's so much else going on. So it's, find your tribe.
Mm,
I
yeah.
I think I said earlier that it's really important to nurture relationships, both family and friends, that will keep you grounded. Um, book by Shonda Rhimes called Year of Yes. And that was my biggest takeaway, is as she went through that journey of that year, learning how to say yes, but also how to say yes to no.
Mm, okay, okay,
Relationships that kept her grounded.
okay. I love that. I love that because I think that is a key factor in it, right? Because nowadays it almost feels like everything that we step on is crumbling beneath our feet. So the importance of having people that ground you, that keep you heart centered, to keep your mind from wandering off
Mm-hmm.
in really dark places that you may not have the strength to get back out of. It is such it is so important to be communal in these moments in time, in these moments in American history, right? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
like I said,
And American future.
I think that yeah, we think that we're in community when we engage in a lot of social media, but
Hmm.
that's not really community. So it's important to find your community, your people, your tribe
Right, right.
that are going to support your journey.
Yeah. Now, my next question would be to you. Would be as we begin to move forward, what are some of the things that these families can do in order to start to reconnect with their family members that may or may not agree with their political views? Just to look at things for what they are and go, you know what, this is still family.
Yeah, I
This
mean,
is
it
man,
happened.
Lonnie.
It's hap-
Yeah. No, I was.
it's happened. It's even happened in my own family.
Has it? Wow. I never thought I would say it, but
Yeah, we're freezing up again. So
yeah.
so you were asking about how to uh, mend those relationships or continue to be in community with family members or close friends through all
Hmm.
of this. And one of my initial comments to the women that reached out to me was just take a step back and press pause. Um, one of them wanted to, contact this other person and ask why. And I said, I don't think asking why is going to give you the answers that you're looking for,
Right,
because
right.
they have their why, which they are going to. I said, so just press pause for a little while. I said, the other thing is to realize that your circle that may have been quite expansive, it's okay if you bring those lines in a little bit for a little while. Not that you're
Hmm.
cutting people off, but you're just kind of, giving everybody space to move through what they need to move through. I always say, give space for grace. And so sometimes, we think we have to go in and do something to fix a relationship. Sometimes it's just better. And then you start to see eventually where you can come together in the commonalities. Maybe at family celebrations. You don't, again, the rules, don't talk politics. And it's not that we want to be false or phony, but building on those little things that start to recreate your community.
I love that. I love that. One of the biggest challenges that I do see, and we're just going to tiptoe around this for a little bit, but I want to just address this because as someone who is not a follower, but nor am I a leader, right? I'm just fine with letting people lead, right? But I will lead from the back because I know that's where our elderly is. That's where our children are, And I would rather be back there with them anyway. But if I need to, I can step up to the plate. I just choose not to. I think in a lot of ways, people have given too much control to a single individual. And I think that's where that can either be that can be either one or two things depending on the individual, how they look at it, is to say, maybe, just maybe I can find my own way. But they've allowed this individual to have to be able to dictate how they feel about certain things. It's like no one has their own train of thought, I guess. Which in turn is causing people a lot of other, just undiagnosed problems. And I wonder, I guess my question would be, how does one look at that and go, maybe it's time to reclaim my individuality and in this process, in this journey of grief?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things I remember doing when I was right after my son had passed. It's been almost 20 years, but I remember understanding when I understood that my process was individual to me, to be able to say that to people, that while I appreciate all of your good intentions, kind words, I told people I need to do this my way. I told friends and family, thank you for your advice, but I need to find my own way. And so finding your own way, reaching out to someone else, it might be, for me, it was really understanding self-care and diving into that, like caring for myself, mind, body, and spirit. But have the courage and the vulnerability to say out loud to people, thank you, I need to.
Yes. And honestly, I totally agree. What I do see is that a lot of people are afraid. They're afraid of the backlash of standing up for themselves, right? And they're afraid of how people would think about them for standing up for themselves. And you and I both know that.
And I think that's why you and I are here, is to help people see.
Yeah, and that's important. So
just to help people to see that.
And so with that being said, I want to get your thoughts on on this topic that we're talking about today. How how do we get people to see beyond what's sitting in front of their face? Um, as they begin to go through these pillars of grief and the multitude of levels that it can have on that it that it has, but the impact that it's having on not only their mental but their soul.
Yeah. It's a grief is something like we've talked about before that or trained people in how to do that well, how to talk
Mhm.
about it. And so I think that's why you and I have landed in this space, that there's so many different ways, that I think exposing them to different points of view, different aspects of grief, different timelines, that along the way, we hope that somebody's going to say, oh, that's my story. That's where I am.
Yes. Yes.
That's the process that connects with me. So I think, we just gotta keep showing up.
you know, we're doing our due diligence by showing up, because we do show up even when we know that that when we're tired and things like that.
Yeah.
People, people still we still show up though, right? Um, but I often have to be careful with that as well, to not paint a false narrative to people. Just because I show up doesn't mean that that I'm not going through my own set of grief, when it comes down to it. Because what I found was, as being a man in the grief field, and I'm pretty sure you probably experienced this too, people are so used to us being the strong ones that they often don't take into consideration when we're not answering our phones, when we're not, when we're
Oh
feeling
gosh.
the best,
Yeah.
right?
And yeah. And I just had that experience this past week. My husband's health, um, and he's fine now. I think looking at grief in a very microcosm perspective is that we grieve a lot of things during our day, during our week. And for me, this past week was grieving the normalcy of my home and my routine.
Mm-hmm.
Our plumbing flooded. We've had contractors in here. My husband was recovering from surgery. And I just loss of my normalcy. And so I think just relating that to people, that understanding that if we can points of grief throughout our day,
Mm-hmm.
it helps us build the resilience for the bigger moments of grief.
It does. Wow, that's deep. I like that, because what you just broke down right there actually sums it up in so many ways. We work on the small steps in order to get prepared for the bigger picture of it, right? And the way that I've always worded it was, like, two ways actually. Grief is like a canvas, with all of these different colors and things like that. And as you begin to heal and as you begin to grow, you begin to paint the picture of the new version of yourself. Or I've always referenced it to the puzzle, right? When you start off, there's millions of puzzle pieces all over the place. You're not sure where anything fits, so you kind of start where you need to start. You kind of put it together. Some pieces fit, some pieces don't fit. But eventually, you get to a point to where you can sit down and you can see
Yeah.
the complete thing, and those puzzle pieces that didn't fit before now has a space, right? And I think that's where correct me if I'm wrong, but those puzzle pieces, those smaller
Yeah,
pieces,
it starts to
actually
come
are
clear. And it's
yeah,
interesting when you talk about a puzzle. My mother, rest her soul, she loved jigsaw puzzles. Um, and in her younger years, she And in her elder years, it was the 24 to 36 piece was kind of what she could manage. And so I think we, looking at our lives and sometimes that grief process, sometimes it seems like it's that 1,000-piece puzzle, like things just fell apart into 1,000 pieces. And regardless of whether it's a 1,000-piece puzzle or a 24-piece puzzle, the important part is to build the edges first.
Yes.
Find the corners, build the edges, create your foundation, and then you can start to put the other pieces together.
Yes. And I think that's huge and important. Okay, so you're in Hawaii. And so how is this global thing right now impacting the residents of Hawaii? What are some of the things that you're seeing and experiencing?
Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up, because a couple of friends and I were talking the other day that we're very grateful that we live in this little island state in the middle of the biggest geographical part into the Pacific Ocean. So we have a little bit of insulation from the chaos and trauma that might be felt on the continent. But nonetheless, there are decisions that are being made, in Washington or on the global market that will impact our viability, our sustainability. So a lot of focus here is on, well, we can't rely on shipping, for instance, to bring in all of our goods and services, our food. So finding, sustainable agriculture, but also looking at where we have a native population. The Hawaiians are, indigenous people. And so working with other Native American philanthropic organizations to be part of that global picture. It's Native rights. And that for me, while I am a white Caucasian woman, I'm married to a Hispanic. And so my children are half Mexican. So talk about immigration, my husband's family came from Mexico. So talk about immigration does impact us. It's not that any of our immediate family would be subject to deportation, but the whole talk about, people being less because they want to come into this country, doesn't make sense to me. But it also then reflects, on a smaller scale in Hawaii, is that whole impact of colonialism, and how do we find the bridge and community in that? Yes. So we're isolated in some ways, but not altogether isolated.
Yes. I totally agree, because I do, I speak with a lot of people from across the world. You've seen, if you've seen my podcast, you already know I talk to a lot of people from across the world, and I listen. Even doing as support groups, I do support groups in a bunch of different other countries as well as the United States. And as men, we opened up the doors to have those conversations around it, right? With the program that I just got done, I realized the first time I introduced it, I had a lot of immigrants that came through, and I got the chance to see life from their perspective, as they began to worry about this, not just the deportation, but the separation of family. Most of them are already struggling with separation of family and things like that. And it's a struggle. It's such a struggle. They're like, we don't know what we're going to do, and most people, most people are just like, yeah, let's do it, and this, that, and other. Now, as a black man myself, I look at all of this and I go, if we're going to do something like that, let's look at the bigger picture. And I really hate to put it this way, but sometimes people got to be put in their place, right? Just with facts.
Yeah.
Just with facts. I go, if you're going to do something like this and you're going to destroy these people's homes and their families and things like that, then you should go too. And they go, well, what do you mean? And I mean nothing by it, but
it gets to, I think that we get wrapped up in a lot of different emotions,
right,
that that sometimes don't, when we throw them all into the pot and mix them together, it doesn't make for a great soup or stew.
Right. And that's what I've been trying to bring up, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't sit around and stir the pot if you ain't in the pot
for the time being, and see if we can mix. Yeah.
And that's what I mean, Lani. Like, that's the only reason why I do it too, because I look at it and go, well, if you're gonna put this whole pot together, don't forget to jump yourself in there. And most of them will look at me and go, what do you mean? I go, you do realize that you're not indigenous to this land neither. And they look and go, think about it for a minute. You're actually indigenous to a European country. So if you're going to talk about deportation, this is what you're for, then don't forget to include yourself in there, right? And the only reason why I do it because I know it's going to make them mad. That's the only reason why I do it, because if they get mad, I know that they're listening.
Well, and sometimes, like you said, sometimes those words need to be said to waken people up, and bring them to a point where they're asking a different question about themselves, about. That's part of what we're here to do, is, when we talk about
I lost her. Well, as we wait for her to come back, we are discussing the universal grief that we're now experiencing in this world. We're talking about, today being what it is. Oh, there she is. She's back. I was just explaining to them what we were talking about.
Sorry, yeah, I was just saying, we've kind of put grief into a little box, and it encompasses so much more, not just for the individual, but our communities and on the global scale. So I think it's really important to continue to have these conversations.
That's very true. That's very true. I got Miss Erin B over here. She just tuned in on Instagram. Thank you, Erin, for tuning in. We definitely got to get together, my friend. Definitely got to get together. I'm going to send you another invite so you can come on the show. We're going to make it happen. We're definitely going to make it happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we got to.
Absolutely.
So, she's another good friend. And so I'm having so many amazing conversations with so many amazing people, and people tuning in on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube. I see them up there and everything. They're just sitting back listening right now. Probably thinking.
Well, and if there's any particular questions that come up that.
Not yet. I think everybody's just sitting back. If I'm not mistaken, everybody's just sitting back listening right now, and enjoying the conversation that we're having. Hopefully they're reflecting, and if they do have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the comment section. We'd be happy to answer those questions.
And you can send them to me there, or they can contact me on my website.
Yeah. Also, I got her information down below as well. And so now, before we get to wrap this thing up and everything, tell us about the next steps that we should be taking in order to find some sort of balance in this world that we find ourselves living in now.
I always say the very first thing is to breathe. Like, come back to your breath. 3 deep breaths at least once a day. preferably more, but really a deep inhale and exhale. And think of it that way: 3 breaths to connect your mind, your body, and your heart. That's the first step, and it's amazing what that can do for you. After that, it's connect with your tribe, find your community. Like I said earlier, nurture those.
Understood. Definitely understood. So now, my next question would be, because you got some books out as well, right? You got some books.
I have one book, and thank you for asking. It's Under a Full Moon and a Guiding Star. It is available either through my website or Amazon. Good news, exciting news, is I have started writing my second book.
Nice.
So stay
I can't
tuned.
wait. I cannot wait.
And interesting enough, the discussion, bigger perspective is part of it.
I love that. I love that. I love the fact that every time I turn around, you got something amazing going on, and you always keep me excited, Lani. Always keep me excited. I'm always like, wow, what is, like, you inspired me to want to go out here and do so much more, because it's like, wow, like I see it and I'm just like, dude, why not? Why not go out there and write that book? Why not go out there and do all of these beautiful things? And I think that's what we should be doing. I think we should be inspiring each other to reach another level of ourselves, to see that different version of ourselves.
And you inspire me as well, with your online magazine, all the things that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm still getting used to taking compliments. Okay. I'm still getting used to that.
That's another thing. Yeah. So that's another part in the year of yes from Shonda Rhimes. Taking compliments and just saying thank you, smile, and move on.
I'm trying. Okay. I'm so trying. And it's really hard for me to take compliments because there's so many people out there that help contribute to the things that I do and the things that we all do, right? This is just not an individual thing. And so me struggling with taking compliments is just my way of saying, I can't take the compliment without giving credit where credit is due. Like having people like yourself that come on the podcast and have these wonderful conversations with me. I go, I can have a podcast, but it wouldn't be anything without the guests that come on. So yes, I can say I will take that thank you, but I give that thank you right back. So you don't understand how humbling.
Well, and it's a two-way street.
Right, it's a two-way street, and so I never want to seem conceited or feel like my ego is in the way of anything or being prideful, saying, "Oh, look at me, I did that." No, I never want to do that. And so,
but you do put in the work, and people like me are grateful to have the opportunity.
I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. So thank you again. I'm working on that. Thank you so much for that as well. So now
I'm gonna keep throwing it back at you.
I see that. So I'm not gonna do that because you'll win every time. And so I know when Tony's whipped. I know when I just gotta be like, what? I'm good. I'm okay. I'm gonna take that, Lani. I'm gonna take that, okay? Because I love you and everything else. But now I got one more question for you. And I've been asking, ever since I got asked, I have to ask everybody else this question as well. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Say that again, because I missed it on the freeze.
Oh, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, I
love this question.
Whoa. I think it would be flying.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been told quite often that I have an eagle's perspective, that I'm able
Uh-huh.
to fly high and see the big picture and then dive down and focus.
Uh-huh.
So I want to actually feel that eagle flying.
I like that. I like that because one of the things that I do have, like I have a necklace with an eagle on it, right? I love the eagles. I love eagles. I think it was several other motivational speakers that talked about the eagle. I think Dr. Miles Monroe was the first one I heard about the analogy of the eagle. Like the eagle is the only one that flies so high that when they get up there, other birds can't touch them. Like the pigeon. A pigeon will go up to an eagle, and as they're flying, will peck at them and things like that, and the eagle will continue to fly. And after a while, the eagle will have to back off because he realizes that he's beyond his limits. And I love that. I love that right there because, as you said, the eagle has those eagle eyes. That I love that phrase. They're able to look down on things, pinpoint where they need to go, and boom, come back down because they see the whole. They see the whole picture, not just little fragments of it. And it's another quote that goes along with that. Um, Eagles are the only bird that, when together, can make a huge impact in the world. And I love that. So when you talk about the eagle aspect of it, I want to say thank you for being an eagle, and allow me to
Thank you.
fly along with you to see this world through the eyes of Miss Lani, and see the
Thank
bigger
you.
picture and come back down so we can do the work that we do. And so now, with that being said, I'm gonna oh my God, I got people bouncing off in here. With that being said, Lonnie, we're going to wrap up this episode of Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. For everyone who has been tuning in, if you haven't already, please do me a favor, head over to their YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. Lonnie's information is down below, and she also shares a story on one episode. So go back and check that out as well if you want to know more about her. She does some amazing work out there. Please go and support her. Let her know that you found her through here. And you guys will be seeing her again because we got a lot more stuff that we're going to be talking
Yes.
about. And she's coming from the beautiful state of Hawaii. And so just to be in this in the moment and in these conversations with her, such a huge honor and a pleasure. I want to again thank you, Lani, for coming in and having this conversation with us today. And for everyone else, we're going to conclude this episode. We're going to see you guys in the next one. This is going to be the last one for today, but I will see you guys tomorrow, right? We got more coming. And you guys go and enjoy your MLK. And just remember, have it, as Lonnie said, have some grace and peace for the people around you. And understand that we are in this world together. And so together we have to heal, right? And so make sure you support one another. Make sure that you're speaking life and love into one another. And with that being said, Lonnie, thank you for speaking life and love into the audience and even into myself today. And for everyone else, going to catch you guys in the
Thank
next
you
one.
again.
Yes, you're so welcome. Thank you.